This is To Wit, a podcast for women in tech doing life. I'm Kristi Guzman.
And I'm Melinda Smith.
Hello, it's been a while.
I know. I was going to say, it's a bit of a spring break for us. We had things going on, things to do, and we had a little bit of a breaky poo.
A whole week. But that's all right. It makes people
it
miss
does
us.
seem like longer, right?
It makes people miss us more.
I do feel that way.
It is kind of crazy. This is episode 17. It feels like, on one hand, it feels like the first one still, and on the other hand, it feels like 700. You know, when I was talking to somebody about it, I'm like, yeah, and then every 10 episodes we have an ally on, and then I was like, and so far we've done that one time. But it's a habit. So, yeah. Although someone did ask me tonight, they're starting a podcast, and so they asked me for advice. So I felt like a legit adult.
Matt Bertuzzi? You felt like Matt Bertuzzi?
No. I'm never going to be cool enough to feel like Matt Bertuzzi.
This is true. I called him Smarty Pants today. I was like, hey, I have a question, Smarty Pants. He was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Again, the question I asked you earlier, I was certain, but...
He's a knower of things.
I feel the same way. And since we took a spring break week off, I feel like I was we always ask each other like fun, actually getting to know one another. But I picked a question that, when you do what would you do if you won the lottery, or the marry, bonk, kill. I said bonk. Anyways, those little fun questions.
Okay.
So this is a dumb one, but I find it really, really funny. If you had to choose, funny to me, if you had to choose between Internet Explorer forever, your only browser ever, or permanently using an AOL email address, what would you choose?
So, I love that you're so amused by this. But I think...
It's like the red pill or the blue pill.
But what I think is funny is, like, you know that your AOL email address is not going to be, like, professional, right? So, like
bananapants@aol.com.
Right? Like, mine was Princess Tiggs because I had these chunky, like, white blonde highlights, like Tigger, on purpose, like, super obvious. So, but I still think I would go for that over Internet Explorer.
Oh, it's so terrible. I
don't know, with the little E, with the little rotatey. Boop, 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 boop. Now, to be fair, can you upgrade your Internet Explorer? Or are you like, like some softwares or hotels where you can only go to like IE8.
IE5.
Yeah, and you can't.
Yeah, I don't know. See, that's the problem with being admins and consultants is, and I'll ask you another question in a second, we start picking it apart. Like, we can't just take the question for what it is, but like, well, am I allowed to upgrade? And the AOL, like, do I have to go to AOL to access that email address? Can I forward it to my Gmail?
Do I have to get the CD in the mail?
Oh my God. That's so funny. I think I'm going to go with AOL. Though I will say, every once in a while, I'll explain my own email address because it's almost as embarrassing as when you get your first email address. I had like Melinda Ellsworth, which was my maiden name. Gmail. I remember Gmail. Remember you got like 99 invites. You could only be by invite only.
You're so cool.
I don't even remember what my Hotmail was. I don't know. Something probably wildly embarrassing, like, Rainbow Unicorn. But the one that I use for my personal now is kind of an accident. So I had my maiden name, normal name, Gmail, and we did virtual RSVPs for our wedding, and kind of more of like an open invite. So
party!
Yeah, it was, and it was a lot of fun, but it was a joke, and we were drinking one night with friends, and his best friend called us Milosh or Jolinda, and it became a thing. So I made our email was like Milosh and our house number at the time. And then when I started moving towards like my own personal stuff, it just became, and it is.
That's
it's literally
cute.
I mean, but it's funny when you try and tell like Comcast, they read it back to you. They're like, is it Milosh 245? And I was like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Sure.
It's Milosh.
Yes, it's
Milosh.
Dutch.
Whatever. Please don't read it back to me. Can you just do the letters? M is in Mary, E is in Echo.
Losh, as in lush, yes. But with an O.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with the bad email. Though, weeks ago, Justice had posted, what was it? Something like, the blue pill, you could go back to being 10 with all the knowledge you have now. The red pill, you would be 45 with like 4 million in your bank account.
Mm.
So I was like, ooh, let's think about it. And of course, first thing I do, well, like, where do I live at 10? You know, how much time? So, you know, it was kind of taking it apart, and he's supposed to take it for
and I
is.
think part of the appeal of being 10 was that you didn't know all the crap you know now.
Hey, could you imagine being 10 with all the heavy of the world?
Like, I feel like, that's the whole thing. Like, people are supposed to want to be kids again.
Yeah.
And not have adulting. I don't want to be a kid and adulting.
Yeah.
And
my
broke,
hiccup with
apparently.
That, yeah. I don't, if it was like 15, the knowledge you have now, and start again, or 45 with 4 million, I don't want to spend 8 to 10 years having adults tell me what to do. Like, that sounds terrible. Or even 3 to 5. It's 10. I mean, you have a lot of years that you have to, like, deal with other people telling you what to do and, like, just be at one with that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that.
Okay.
They apparently would
Take
rather...
the money. So before you forget, I feel like you reminded yourself of another question. Do you remember what it was?
That was it.
Oh.
It already happened.
Moving right along.
The topics
Nothing to see here. What do you got?
Oh my gosh, we have lots to talk about. So we both did the Lightning Tour. You did a Lightning in a Box delivery and the Force Academy. And then I have other questions and then other crap to talk about. But I actually want to ask about Force Academy because...
Oh, do you?
If I remember correctly, or I was told correctly, that was the first event, correct?
No, this was... So they renamed it. But this is the... somewhere between 3rd to 5th.
Oh. Well, what was the name before?
Feel free to
Why'd they
correct me.
rename it? What's happening?
Because I think it had... I forget. I didn't know you were going to ask me this question. I am unprepared. Sorry, Guillermo. Right. Please chime in and tell us the right answer. Yeah, so it was great. I think this is the first year they've done it at that location. So it used to be called... I was trying to
what was the change? Was it not hands-on before?
Salesforce University. So probably they just weren't allowed to use that name again.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
But California Super User Group, it was great. They had 2 tracks, and then they had a great expo in the middle that they did headshots. I was the first one to sit down, but I thought I almost missed it. Like, I didn't get the time. I thought she was there all day. I don't know. So I was like the guinea pig person. So there's like 3 times as many pictures of me as anyone else.
I downloaded them all.
Hey.
I have them all in my room.
Well, when I see my partner climb, in my mind, it's like a little wallet sizes, you know?
This is her and I here. This is her at Force Academy. This is her with my dog. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was just a nice area. It was at Cal State Fullerton, and it was really nice. And that's like the most horrible word.
What'd you deliver?
Nice. Ugh. I did a session called Lightning Layout Gumshoe that I invented in my head. It was the first time I presented it. Okay, I was trying to think why the word gumshoe was in my head. So the purpose was like that, well, let's be a detective and look at the lightning pages, because I feel like the Lightning record page, initially when I got started, it was hard for me to understand that like the details component and the related list and list components, the source for those is technically your page layout. And then the highlights panel, the source is a compact layout. And like this one you define in the Lightning page, but you have to set it up. And so just like, where in the world? And so then I realized the reason Gumshoe was in my head was because of Carmen Sandiego. And so I played the rockapella theme song in my presentation from Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
There's multiple versions.
Well, no, I'm sorry. Rockapella is the name of the band. They sing acapella, I guess. But that show also had a lightning round. What? It's like perfect. So yeah, so it was like, let's investigate. You know, I had the magnifying glass, and people said they liked it. It was the first time I did it. It was really just a high level look at, you know, and even just the idea that, so like, you know, lightning is the future, lightning is the best, like a little bit of that. But whether you buy into that or not, like, it's happening. So kind of like, suck it up, buttercup, let's do this. Like, we can't not do this, you know?
Yeah,
so
totally.
Trying to just help people get at least comfortable enough to just dig in and start doing it. And honestly, it was a way for me to force myself to get in and start doing it, right?
Sure.
And so it was great actually then to come back and then go to the Lightning Now tour, because it really helped. It helps me get excited about those things. Like reading the release notes is super fun, you know, but while I wait for someone else really to just write a blog, synthesizing them for me. But even reading things, sometimes you don't get it until you're like, wait, I can do that?
Joy. Yeah. You
know, and then it's like, oh, and it just gets you thinking about how you can do different things. Like, for example, Angela Mahoney did a great talk at Force Academy about technical debt and managing that. And she made the point that every time you're building something right now, not in Lightning, you're basically creating technical debt for yourself. And so
cool. Yeah, for sure.
I kind of got to thinking about that. But then at the Lightning Now event, not only can you technically take your existing visual force and wrap it in a Lightning component and use it in Lightning, whether or not you updated it to look Lightning-y, which they walk you through, but you could build a Lightning component and wrap it in Visualforce and use it in Classic. So you, as like a Visualforce page that you could put on your layout just like anything else. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, okay, so if I do need to build a new thing, how do I build it as a component and then wrap it and still use it in Classic maybe? So yeah, so it was really interesting kind of how it all ties together. I feel like the last like week and a half of my life has been like brought to you by Lightning. And so
that's a good thing to be brought to you by.
Yeah. And it's interesting to hear everyone's experiences too. I think you know, there's a lot of people who still are like, oh, my org will never move, which you're like, yep, it will. But just with like,
bet you me.
Right. But I think the key thing for me to understand and internalize, which put me in a mental position to submit this session in the first place, was like, yep, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to suck for a while. You will not know what you're doing, and that's a crappy feeling. But like I say, like, suck it up, buttercup. Like, you know, okay, great. You don't get to be perfect at every brand new thing you do. So, I mean, I know that sounds kind of like tongue-in-cheek a little bit,
you like to be like, you like to be the SME on everything. You want to be the go-to.
Well, and
to be like, I don't know.
Well, and you know, you want to be the resource for everyone else, and so then, you know, you kind of feel like you're clicking around and not maybe sure what you're doing, but you know that you discover things as you're going along too. So, you know, how do you? I have a hypothetical blog post brewing in my head about like if you do think it's never going to happen or whatever, how do you still prepare yourself and break it down for yourself. So, because it's a lot. It's a fire hose, right? And Salesforce in general is a lot. But I'm not 100% on the lightning train, but I get it.
Well, I am typically on the lightning train. Okay. I say that. I've had some struggles recently. Mostly just, cut it short, is summer 17 kind of broke some stuff and some things for me. Mm-hmm. And it won't be fixed till winter 18, so it's a hindrance to move fully to lightning and some other projects. But I'm still a huge advocate. It's just kind of a blip, and the client is not super happy to hear. I was so excited about lightning, and I'm the one that sold them on moving to lightning. And I had to tell them today about that. We're just going to throttle back a little, and it's going to be fine. But it was. I hated not being able to move towards that.
Well, so how did you feel at the Lightning Now event? Like, did you get inspired and get the t-shirt?
I had a great time, but I also jump ahead like I do. So when it was like the first 17 steps, it was like, let's start a classic app and convert to Lightning. I just jumped ahead and started building a Lightning app. And I was like, oh, you want me to read or follow? Yeah, this is what I did. But I've been working, 95% solely Lightning since last September. So to throttle back and try and build some consoles in Classic the last 2 days has been a struggle, just because I literally am like, where the F is my stuff? Why is this not already pre-built? So it's not bad. It's just, it's not ideally what I want to do. And, to that point, I'm like, I just want to do this in Lightning. Can I just do this in Lightning?
Well, and that's one such an interesting viewpoint, though, of like, to me, that's partially the light at the end of the tunnel, right? Because, like, now you flip the script a bit, that you're used to it, right? The change has worn off a bit, and you can see the value of, working in Lightning.
I literally can't find some shit right now to build this classic console. Then I accidentally built it as a feed-based console, and then realized, shit, that's not actually a console, and then built the app as a console, and I was like, I don't even like how this looks. Where's my other stuff? So it's just kind of funny, and it's a great learning curve to kind of throttle back on situations, because there'll be times that, we'll go into an org that isn't ready for that. But Lightning does, just to be the champion and the advocate, they make it so much easier to integrate and build these consoles. And, I talked heavily about the utility bar with this client, and that's just not going to be a thing right now. And my project manager and engagement manager, I failed to tell them prior to the call. I thought I did, and I didn't. And then I dropped the bomb on the call with the client. Then I got like 1,000 pings. Wait, what happened? And I said, I'm so sorry. So, everyone's on board now. I sold them on it, and then I had to throttle it back because the summer 17 release kind of it messed up a few components in Field Service Lightning that are directly connected to the service console. So,
well,
I just want to be in Lightning all the time.
If you need a friend that is pro console, there was just to bring it full circle. Kathleen Lueckeman. I totally hung out with her, and I can't pronounce her name to save my life. Did a session.
Her first name, so that's awesome.
Did a session about consoles, and we could even talk a separate episode, because I don't want to go too crazy right now, but like about consoles, and we can have like a nice little lawyerly debate to try and get people to one side or the other, because I think and I do think it's interesting to think about Lightning flavor of Lightning console versus standard console, and if that changes the opinion of whether or not you would be pro-choice, pro-console. She also aspired to be like her in terms of her clothing choices, because she has acquired a lovely set of cloud ensembles / pants, which is the only part of a Salesforce ensemble I do not own. is pants. So, and a skirt. I'm pretty sure she has a dress too. So she's just
I did that.
Squad goals, Ohana goals, all over the place.
For sure. Yeah, I'll reach out to her. I need assistance. Mama's in a dark place right now. I just want to be on Lightning.
My console. Well,
yeah, so
someday, baby. Someday.
I'm going to lead into something that might be a little controversial, and I will lay it out in a way that doesn't offend the people that we love, because it's not meant to be offensive.
Ooh, now I really don't even know what you're going to talk about.
I'm going to call it the Eeyore syndrome.
Ooh, okay.
I think the longer that you're in this business, not everyone, because I definitely don't think that you fall into this category. Maybe not even longer. Maybe that's not a fair layup. I think that there's a personality trait or maybe an approach to Salesforce that admins, consultants have a tendency to do this. And I'll do a little role playing with myself.
I mean, I can help.
Hey, I'm client XYZ and I have heard about this blah, blah, blah. I want to do this. And the first thing the admin or consultant says, well, and I get it. Like, we are gatekeepers and expectation levelers. So we need to help people understand what can and can't be done in their org. But I see a lot of, I feel like the negative comes out first. Like, well, Lightning this, or I'm not sure that's great. And yeah, I had a friend just a week ago that's like, hey, can I buy you some drinks? I think we're Lightning ready. Our admin is just not there. So we talked about things. We went through the Lightning readiness kit, and I was like, yeah, you've got some issues here and there, but there's some workarounds, and let's pull the trigger in full and see where we can break, yada yada, and just kind of talking her through it. And she said, I just don't understand, because when I talk to my admin, all she tells me is how she hears the community says it's not great, and Lightning's not ready, and it's not fully baked, and it's bad, and it's this. And I didn't say this to her because, I mean, it would do her no good. But that's kind of when I thought, like, I have worked for people in the past, and I have worked with people that it's the Eeyore syndrome too. It almost seems like the negative first, like the, well, I mean, it's good on paper. And do you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Like, I get that we need to manage expectations and say what can and can't be done. But can we also do it with a little level of, dude, that's awesome. It could be great. Here's some roadblocks. I just see it a lot, and maybe it's just me. But I feel like I run into that personality trait a lot.
So, what I was talking about at our user group, I think, especially with a new thing, right? Everyone's like, oh, they rolled it out 2 years ago and it's still not there, but
right.
I think from like, kind of what Shauna Wolverton was like, you asked for a pony and like you got, I forget what she said, something like, I can't give you a pony, but I can give you this other thing, and that you may not get everything that you want. And it is tough because these poor PMs that were so wonderful at the Lightning Now tour. But like, obviously it's not every product PM. So they're presenting about stuff that's not quite their product. And then you've got me and the lovely Amber Boaz who, we're not shy. And then you've got other people asking questions too. But a lot of it does come from a good place, but you're kind of like, as soon as you see something, then it's kind of like, ooh, but what about this? And they're kind of like, I don't know, so, like, we'll take that feedback back. So I was talking to somebody today that it's kind of like they gave you a way to milk a cow and you were like, I'd like to dye chicken feathers, like, so like, can you do that? And it's like, I mean, probably, but like, get excited about this cow thing, like, yes, they both live on a farm together. But that doesn't mean that like, but I can see where it's also, then you could leave and be like, they hate chickens, like that it's not, if it's not the thing you need or you don't tune into it, that it's easy to, just like we've had trouble with our meeting software. And so I don't want to like, super call them out, but like people say, oh yeah, it drops calls. It drops calls, the call quality is awful, blah, blah, blah. And my boss made a good point. He's like, nobody's told me that. So maybe there's some general grumble mumble about it, but like, again, suck it up, buttercup. Like, no one comes to me, and I've said I can't just call support and be like, people say sometimes it doesn't work right. Like, that's not how life works. If you have a bad meeting, if you want me to change anything, you've got to tell me quantifiable information. And I think that can be kind of an interesting hat that the admin wears or a consultant wears, is kind of level setting those expectations. And especially with Lightning, because I think it's easy for, I have the benefit that my C-suite like gets how Salesforce works, but a lot of people probably don't, right? So especially if you go to some tour and you see them dragging and dropping Kanban cards, and like they're pulling dashboard components that are pretty colors, like it's sexy, right? So I'm sure plenty of people, they go back and they're like, oh yeah, we want that, and it's like, okay, great, I would like $1 million, like, okay, we don't get what we want. But I think it's also sometimes tough to then reframe that to say either, okay, great, how can we work toward that, and how do you want to prioritize that against these other 5 projects that you want?
Sure.
Or, hey, I ran our Lightning readiness test, and I'm going to need a development resource to help me develop some components so that we have the function, we can take the functionality we have now and move it over. Or, I think it's easy to I think it's harder to not be Eeyore sometimes.
No, I get it. And I guess part of me feels like 2 parts, that people are capitalizing on the fact that others don't know. So it's like, well, I will show you how it won't work in order to show that, like, I really have a handle what's going on. And that's not a bad thing. Like, that's great. Mm-hmm. My goodness. If I went to every expo and came home with, I want these things, and no one throttled me in, my goodness, it would be a mess. But it's also, I feel like, can we mix it in with, yeah, that may not work, but can we still be excited about the product? And it's not everybody. I definitely don't mean that. It's just, there's people I've crossed paths with or conversations I've had that it makes me giggle because, and like I say in my head, it's the Eeyore complex. And it's instead of leading with, well, I mean, that's great, but we have a lot of complex, JavaScript buttons or whatever. It's definitely, it's like the lead with the, well, let me tell you how it's not going to work. And I will say, I will call myself out. I heard myself say it once. I remember the incident, and I was like, wow, you're just leading with the, well, let me tell you.
Well, what's interesting? Here's an interesting kind of similar concept. In general, I think you could get 100 positive pieces of feedback and 1 negative, right? And that's what you remember. And it's weird because, like, you've probably read that or heard that or whatever. But I can tell you, for Southeast Dreamin', I can quote you the piece of bad feedback that caught my eye the most, and that's what I remember, right? So I think
the 87 praises.
Exactly. And so then, like, compound that, and so you're going to remember the pitfalls of Lightning. And like I said, when they started small, there was a lot of gaps. And so every release, especially with summer, I think that's closing. And so now the question has to change. So let's say you had 20 things that weren't going to work. Like, that's a pretty obvious give and take, especially because once they get out of Lightning, they're going to stay in Classic because it's their whoopee and it's what they're familiar with, right? But
totally.
Like, you have to fight to, like, no, I'm going to figure this out in Lightning. But I think now, like, let's say you have 3 gaps. Well, are all the benefits and the carrots that they're trying to entice you with, are those going to outweigh these two things that you can't do that only some people have to do sometimes? Or are those two gaps really deal breakers? Like, you're never going to get everything, probably, right? Like, that's, you are in Classic, you don't have everything you want either. That's why we have Visual Force, and that's why we have partners, and that's why we, you know, have to say no to people that, no, I can't put that related list at the top of the page, and I can't, you know, add 3 fields in a column, and I can't, but you just know those can'ts, and you're more comfortable with them. So if there's only, you know, one thing once a week that people have to, like, you just, I think it's a different frame of mind than it was 2 years ago, right? Like, in the beginning, it was, nope, like, there's no quotes, like, there's no campaigns, right? Like, there's no things that my salespeople are using every day, right? Whereas now, it's like, okay, maybe I can't move a JavaScript button I have that does blah. And so could I rebuild it a different way? Maybe I need a dev resource. Like, could I, you know, could I wrap my Visual Force in a Lightning component and just have it not match and not care, but it still be functional? Or maybe it is a legit gap and you have to wait. And that's okay. But like I said, I think you have to keep in mind that even if you're not ready, you still have to learn things. And I guess this is kind of gotten into a Lightning argument because that's where my frame of mind is. But I think in general, it is sometimes you have to either like forgive yourself for having that day where you're like, if this, blah, my life is hard, right?
Stupid.
Right? Oh, Salesforce. But, you know, but then I think it also sometimes you have to force yourself to stop and think. And a part of that, too, I think, is, like, getting at the why and, like, those kind of strategies of what are you really asking for? Because maybe they saw a webinar and that's how the webinar did it, but really they could do it another way. And if you're so quick to be like, oh, no, we can't use flows, then, like, but maybe the idea they had made sense. You just have to do it a different way or something. Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
And that's kind of what I want. Is I'm still such a cheerleader and such a rah-rah and such an advocate. I get excited still, like I'm still the one in the keynote that's like, I got this new feature, and there's other people around me like, well, you know, that's not going to work for 2 years, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, well, sure, of course, but like I would love for other admins and consultants to just, you know, find a happy medium between, you're right, let's be realistic, but still be like super jazzed about our shit.
I think there's also, you have to keep in mind that like some people are going to be the bitter bear, right? And they're going to look,
sure. It's a personality
they're going to look and look to poke holes in the thing, right? And there's just no winning, and that's fine. Good for you. But you just,
I swing the pendulum the other way where I'm like, oh my God, everything's amazing. They're like, well, look, this requires 47 points. They showed you 2. And I was like, oh, throttle it back. Yeah, I don't have an off. I don't have a throttle back. I don't even have a medium. It is full gauge or sleeping. Oh my God, it's so funny. Well, I mean, I'm glad that you recognize it too, because, you know, sometimes, well, I have days. Everyone has days where they curse everything, but I do typically live in this like rose-colored glasses because I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and so.
Well, and
like, what do you mean you're not so happy?
I could be sort of biased because it's been a while since I was in consulting, and so that's a different beast, right? I'm dealing mostly with the devil I know, right? So
sure. Yeah, right.
I at least have kind of learned some things about people's personalities, and you know, so I've got one user who keeps asking me about this thing he needs, and it's not that it's that hard, but it's not a priority. But then how do you tell, like, and I haven't managed it well either in positioning, because it's just not, we don't have that many deals that are impacted by what you want. So of course I would love to do it. I would love to do everything. I would also love to, you know, make dinner every night and exercise, but those things aren't happening either. So
it's hard,
you know,
too hard.
But that sort of sounded, I don't know how that turned into like me shitting on myself, but
you're not shitting on yourself. You're busy.
I would also like to revise all my page layouts, right? And do some field utilization and get rid of some of that crap. And yeah, sure, you know. So, but from his perspective, that's like his most important thing for his job. So I get it. And so I think if you're working with customers that either have no clue all the time or like don't love come into a consulting relationship like hating consultants in general because they assume you're going to pad all your estimates and just like all those kind of built-in attitudes like before you even talk to a consultant, you know. So I think if I can see if you're struggling against that all the time, that maybe someone's asked you the same stupid questions 50 times and it's kind of like, yes, I know you saw the demo, but that's not really how it works.
It's so true. It is true. Yeah. I mean, speaking of too, that I was telling someone today that I'm so grateful and happy to be where I am and working for this big company. But when you work for someone bigger, you know, the Bluos, the Imperials and all them, you always have stories of, oh, well, this wasn't implemented right. And I've been somewhere where they implemented a package and, you know, they complained about the code coverage. And I was like, I'm going to be different. I'm going to make sure everyone's very happy with every project I roll out. Now, keep in mind, still on project one. And halfway through, like they're already upset because I can't deliver on what I promised. And it's that moment, that light bulb moment, again, when you put yourself in someone else's shoes, when you're like, wow, of course, no one sets out to do well, most people don't set out to do a shitty job. But when you realize, and I never had neither nor thought about like Blue Wolf, my experience with them as a customer was amazing. But I'd had, you know, you hear things of the bigger consultant firms and people complain. And when you're on the other side of it and little things happen that are out of your control, the client doesn't care. They're holding us responsible. So it is a little bit like, oh, I get it now. Wah, wah.
Yeah, it's tough to overcome people's mental objections sometimes and not be that guy. Especially with consulting. Consulting is just such a weird, like, I am purposely paying you for your knowledge and experience, and yet I'm begrudging what I'm paying you for your knowledge and experience and time.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
For sure. It's like that in, I feel like consulting, any kind of like abstract deliverable. Photography was like that when I was a photographer. Like, I get that you have an iPhone and I 100% understand. You asked me to take family photos. So when they don't understand, you know, the concept of the price, that was frustrating. This was, you know, years ago, but still it is hard. Like, I need your expertise, but I also feel like you suck at it.
Well, or I just want to be frugal in general.
Mm-hmm. But when we were talking about companies too, I learned recently that my company really only pays for like extended learning, extra conferences and stuff like that after you've been there for a year, which makes sense. You know, you put the time in, they'll put the time in and the money in. But I've never experienced that in all of my Salesforce years. So, you know, kind of just shifting gears is, I don't know if you've experienced it and what do you do? Let's say you have 5 things on the books between Dream and Events or Trailhead X or whatever you want to do. And you're met with a, hey, that's not how it works for our HR budget, guidelines. You know, what do you do? Have you experienced it? I guess is the first question.
I haven't experienced it for that reason. I've experienced it for a company not really getting the value of those things. And
oh yeah. And why would I spend the money on that?
Well, and like, again, I may not have explained the value as like why I want to go to a Dreamin' event because I assume people know sort of what they are
Sure.
and how the value is, or even like user group meetings, you know, and those kind of relationship building things. So I haven't had that. I do feel like, you know, right now, if there was something I really wanted to go to, I mean, let's be real. Like, I used the Hopper app to track flights to Paris and to Ireland because I don't know if that'll happen. And even if it does, I don't know if I'll personally invest, but like, what if there's a cheap flight? Like, maybe I will, right. You know? So, yeah, I don't know. I can see the value in wanting to go anyway, because I mean, obviously, if people have listened to us ever, they know that I'm 150% in when it comes to user groups and dreaming events, because I can't even...
Weird. I think I might be the same.
Well, and like, honestly, the session I was talking about at Force Academy, what planted the seed of that was a conversation I had on a bus on the way to Reno from Tahoe. Right? And the session I submitted for Witness Success, which got accepted, yay, I'm speaking there too. It, again, same conversation, because I just talked to a CEO, of course, who doesn't just sit next to other Salesforce CEOs on a bus that you've never met before and strike up a whole conversation, right? So I know that's a tough ROI, but like, to me, that's worthwhile. But I also know that because I've been, so if you haven't, because I mean, I know it's hard to believe, there's still people who haven't been to Dream events, haven't heard of Trailhead. What? Like, sometimes I forget when you're in it, you know, like you forget that there's other people that like haven't heard of Salesforce at all, you know, kind of.
Totally. Yeah. When I told someone today that I was embarrassed by my low badge count and I told them my number, they were like, it's like 75 more than me. And I was like, but I'm still embarrassed because Jenn Lee has them all.
Right.
Anyways, but yeah, you're right. Like, people are not in it.
Well, and I think that's interesting too. Like, so I work at a Salesforce partner, but we don't offset people's certifications. And
really?
I don't know, because I mean, technically it doesn't, I mean, I'm our internal admin, but like from a sales perspective or CS perspective, like, I guess, yeah, it helped, like you're helping customers. So it's good to know, because oftentimes those customers are admins, but you can basically, our product is showing you data so that you already have in Salesforce. So you don't necessarily have to have an advanced understanding of, you know, so it doesn't really like,
yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
quote unquote benefit, I guess. But so then like, I don't know that I would have taken the intro to admin 5-day class taught by someone from Blue Wolf back in the day if my company hadn't paid for it and flown me there. You know, so I don't know. So
I think there's both. Like, on one hand, I was really shocked. Like, whoa, gosh, does that affect Dreamforce too? Wow, I've never had to allocate for that. And, you know, talking with my boss, who is such an advocate and such a supporter, he's like, no, I love what you're doing. I support it. You know, do what you got to do. I'm here for you, kind of thing. But it's a big company, so policies are policies. He's like, I can try and work around. I'm like, no, like, if there's any workaround, like, you know, throw me a bone for Dreamforce. Throw me some, I don't know, food or whatever. But the twofold I see to it, because at first I was like, well, that's kind of crazy. I need to allocate that in my budget. But I feel like consulting is kind of like sales. Like, you want to do the shit, bill more hours. You want to go do the thing, you want to spend more money, then bill more hours, you know, hit your util, get a bigger bonus, which is sales. Sales, you have a lot of flexibility, and I do have a lot of flexibility in my life. So, okay, so the payback or the transference of having a lot of flexibility is you need to pay for your own shit. Okay, that's fine. The other great thing about it is, on one hand, whoa, shoot, I got to think about $2,000 to $4,000, you know, for Dreamforce for the week between food, rooms, flights. But on the flip side, I don't need to come back with like an ROI.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to come back and be like, these are the sessions I went to, and this is what I learned.
You can just do it for you.
Yeah. So it's fine. Like, it's not, of course, I'd rather somebody pay than me, but if I could do my own thing and not be concerned about, I am too tired, too hungover or whatever to go a session, or I just ran into some friends I haven't seen all year. I want to go to lunch with them and I want to bag, you know, this session, or I went to this session on Apex because I really want to learn about it, but it wasn't what really is the wheelhouse that I'm in with my company. Then I have to explain why, yeah, I learned it. No, I'm not going to use it, but I personally got a lot out of it. So there's kind of a give and take to it. I've never been in this situation. On one hand, it's very freeing. It's just costly.
Well, and I think
my freedom costs.
It's interesting too, because I know some people who then have said like, well, I'm not wearing my company shirt. Like, and I feel like I just said that with like a weirdly teenage girl attitude, but really, like, I sort of empathize with that, like, but I can also see how it's comes across kind of petty sounding, like, well, if you're not going to give me money to go, then I'm not going to wear your shirt, you know, like,
yeah, I mean, if you feel that way, sure. I'm super proud of where I work, so I'm down to represent. But yeah, it's different. I was like, it was funny. I was talking to a colleague because I pinged him and I was like, hey, I just learned about kind of the HR policy because I was trying to figure out, I don't know if it was Midwest Streaming or even Surf Force. Like, where do you stand on this? By the way, I'm, put on this conference, but it's, it's Friday, Saturday, so it really doesn't affect. And I was like, and I know that putting it on, a lot of things will be comped, but anyway, so that's how the conversation came up. So I pinged my colleague and I was like, so I just learned this. Does this apply to Dreamforce too? Oh my gosh. I've never had a company not pay. And he's so sweet. He was like, really? I've never had a company pay.
Well, you realize I didn't. I had a gap of probably 4 or 5 years that I didn't go. And I worked for a partner even for some of those years, but I just didn't make the cut. We had a package on the App Exchange, and so like some of our developers went, but I didn't make the cut ever. So, and that was like pre-Dreamins-ish, right? So there was user group, but there wasn't as much else. So yeah, I went from like everything fit in Moscone, north and south, like not even west, like north and south. The first year that the concert wasn't in the keynote hall and was actually outside, like between the two buildings, there was no Dream Park. So I went from that year to 2015, which was goodness. Take over the world, right? And that was
the entire city.
Yeah. So yeah, I had a real big gap in there. And so it's a whole different ball game, girl. But yeah, I didn't get sent. And it almost didn't occur to me to pay for myself. But that makes sense. Like, invest in yourself.
It's such a good time, and I so look forward to it. I mean, I guess if maybe family-wise we had Bali on the radar for the year, and it was like, well, shoot, if company's not going to pay, we're not going to go to Bali or blah blah blah. Clearly, I'd make a different decision, but it's important to me, and Josh knows, like, that is it's my thing, it's what I do. So when this came up, he was like, well, we'll make it work. Like, that's your deal. It's my first Dreamforce and MVP. I want to hang out. I want to have fun. And I was like, okay, I will find someone and I can share. I could share with Amy. We shared last year and we had so much fun. So, I mean, there's other ways to mitigate some costs, but
it's so expensive.
Like, it's totally a non-negotiable. Like, I am going. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
I mean, maybe we'll have a makeup vacation.
Yeah. And then, 2018 with cruise. I'm not saying anything. I didn't say that. So, can we do Super Fave?
Of course we can.
Yay! Because I have a Super Fave that I think is fun. And I feel like could also be a little controversial, because this is the podcast of controversy from Melinda.
Well, just so that I have a turn to interrupt, I'm going to go first. So, good try on a segue there. One of mine, I'm really digging Bloody Marys right now, which is going to probably make me sound like totally like an alcoholic. But I didn't used to like tomato juice. Have you ever heard this thing about how tomato juice tastes better on airplanes? Or it's something like, when you hear people order it, you're more likely to order it in an airplane situation.
100%.
Okay, so that's a thing.
Yep, that and ginger ale.
So I didn't used to like tomato juice, and now I do. And so now I get to enjoy Bloody Marys. And because of the super wonderful liquor laws here in North Carolina, I went to a new distillery. Well, new to me. It's been there a little while. But you can literally buy one bottle a year at the distillery. It's called Doc Porter's. They have the vodka that I bought for making Bloody Marys, because buy local. They have a delicious gin, except I don't usually drink gin. And so I was like, what do I mix it with? I don't know. And then I was like, I only get one bottle a year. I can't buy the bottle that I don't know what to do anything with.
No, totally. No.
And then they make a bourbon too. So, I was just driving by and I was like, so that was super fun. I had some of those on Sunday, and I'm not very good at mixing them myself.
One bottle a year?
I'll have to find, it's a stupid law. Like, you can't drink before noon on Sundays. You
Says who? Watch me.
in public at restaurants. You can't order drinks before noon on Sundays. Wait, isn't that true in Denver too?
Bitch, hold my beer.
I'm pretty sure. No, that's why I went to the store and bought Zing Zang on Sunday morning, because you can buy mixers. And then I came home and had a Bloody Mary on Sunday.
5 years ago, the law passed that you could sell liquor on Sunday. So this was a blue state. What do they call it?
But
so anyways, you couldn't buy a car on Sundays. No, you couldn't buy liquor or cars on Sundays.
But if we went out to brunch this Sunday, could we have a mimosa at 8 a.m.?
100%, yes.
I could have sworn I went somewhere not that long ago, and like last year, and they had like a bell that rang when it was new.
The only place I know that is the airport.
That's funny. I wasn't
the airport. They won't sell you booze before like 8 or 10 or something. But so no, I think people would lose their mind.
So even we have a different distillery that then sends their liquor to Raleigh to get tax stamped, and then they send it back to next door to the distillery where they've opened a bar restaurant so they can serve their own liquor. Because that makes sense. Yeah, just weird.
I like Bloodies, but they have to be made right. Like I kind of suck at the Bloody Mary bars sometimes because I make it like a milkshake and it's disgusting.
I think Zing Zang is the trick.
Yeah, Zing Zang's good.
I just went, and I don't like olives, so just Zing Zang, a little hot sauce, and some lime.
Pickle juice, Worcestershire.
Pickle juice? Sauce. I didn't even think about that.
Celery salt.
You're getting fancy now.
I like vinegar and salt.
Okay, I like it. Okay, so now what do you got with your controversy?
All right, I'm not gonna lean on it too much because I know we don't talk a lot of politics on here, but I have heard of and only recently started listening to Pod Save America, and in this political climate, they're funny and humorous. They are left leaning, so if you don't like it, don't bother. But it's kind of a humorous, fun take on shenanigans, and then they will interview people that are actually in the DC area. They're like, yeah, this is how crazy things went down. So it's one of those kind of, I don't know, Daily Show, John Oliver situations where I feel like I can get a little mix of news with a little humor and not feel like I want to die. So that's fantastic.
I wish people could have seen the video because I just leaned to the left while you were talking. My other super favorite thing is a twofer because I landed for Force Academy, rented my car, didn't choose the Kia Soul that was lime green. I went with the Nissan. Literally drove straight to In-N-Out. And it was so good. And when I was there with the ladies in Phoenix earlier this year, I learned that now they have the sauce in packets so you can put it on your fries and it's delicious.
Yeah. I lived there for nearly 3 years and didn't know that till November before we left. They had the burger sauce, the animal sauce, whatever the hell it's called, in a packet.
If you're listening to this on the East Coast and you're like, oh my God, In-N-Out is so overrated, I'd rather go to Shake Shack, then like you're not going to get this, and that's fine, but you just need to accept that you're wrong. But here's the craziest thing. Picture this. Friday afternoon, sitting at Lightning Now, lunchtime. I sit next to James Goerke, who lives in Raleigh, who I think I've met before. He's a ginger, so he's pretty recognizable from his Twitter photo. And I asked my question, which is really subtle, which is basically like, what's your life story? / how do you Salesforce? And we both live in North Carolina for years, went to rival high schools, not that far away from each other, in Southern California at the same time.
Wow.
What?
Yeah.
So he understands the joy of In-N-Out.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's pretty freaking good.
Yeah. And it was just crazy that it was like, because I don't know about you, in telling people where you live, and probably depending where you live in Colorado, like if you don't actually live in Denver, the same thing. So when people ask where I grew up, I start with Orange County, which people have heard of or seen the show, right? Then I go to Mission Viejo, which is like sort of people probably know maybe. And if they're making the I know where that is face, then I go Tribuco Canyon. I get smaller and smaller. See, then I lost you. So it's funny to when people actually know what I'm talking about. Because when I grew up there, sorry, this is never going to end. This is when I remind myself of my own stories, and then I'm just going to talk forever. When I grew up there, I moved there when I was 5, and there was like nothing where we lived. And so you had to drive like 15, 20 minutes to the store. So we'd call it in town, right? Like, oh, I'm going in town this afternoon. Do you need anything? So by the time I got to high school and I could drive, obviously our town had been built up. They opened new elementary schools. I could walk to a grocery store, et cetera, et cetera. But it was still like ingrained. And so in high school, it'd be like, oh, I'm going to stay in town after MUN, after school because I have MUN, and then I blah, blah, blah. And people were like, in town? Like, where do you live? And I'm like, there used to be nothing here. You don't even know.
There was nothing but orange groves. Right? I had to walk to school uphill.
Down into the canyon. But anyway, yeah. So that was fun to reminisce a little California, and I got to go there in 1 week. So it's been a good time to be me, Salesforce-wise.
Have you not seen James at user groups?
I don't live in Raleigh. I mean, actually, I'm going to go to the Raleigh user group, and I have been before. It's likely that I've met him before. I don't know, though. But everyone's so super friendly that, like, am I just talking to you and we're having a conversation because I could talk to a chair for half an hour and you're being nice, Or have I met you and should remember that? So
yeah, no. It's true. I mean, or you meet someone, you talk to them like, I haven't met you. And you've spent the last half hour being like, oh, wow. I know you so well on social media.
Yeah.
I truly had no idea.
Like, I knew who he was, so it was like, oh, hi, when I saw him sitting behind us. But I can't think of, like, a time we've specifically had a conversation. But that's also a great reminder that sometimes you have an impact on people, and it, like, doesn't even ring a bell for you. So the lovely and talented Trish Perkins was also there from High Point, and she was like, oh my God, you're my favorite. You saved my life the other day with the formula comment you made. And it's like, what? Like, I had to think about it. And it was about, she was trying to calculate, on Success Community, she was trying to calculate, she has a formula that's like, if kids are this age, do this. If they're this age, show this. If they're over 5, then show this. But really, there's a grace period. So it's really if they're over 5 years and 6 months. And so she was trying to figure it out. And even like Steve Mo commented one way to do something. And then someone else, I think Elizabeth Davidson, like these other super smart people. And I was like, well, can't you just take like whatever it was like 90 days, not 6 months. So I'm like, can't you just do like 5 plus 90 divided by 365 and then say that they're greater than that number? So like it made sense to me, and in the end she did comment back, and I just hadn't seen the comment back, but like that just like made her whole day for a problem she had with a client, right? And so I think you just don't realize the impact that you have on people.
Well, we all know so much little shit in different avenues because everything's so much.
Right.
Like you're not going to know, well, I mean, most people don't know everything of the platform.
No. And then if you do, then a new release will come out and then you don't know anything anymore.
Then you're screwed and your app breaks. I'm not talking about that anymore.
What else you got?
All right,
bring us home, girl.
It's just silly, but I'm like really enjoying it. It's just working from home. My last consultant company was a little bit of a struggle, and I felt a little on an island and wasn't sure, and I wasn't interacting. And it's a little different now. Like I'm kind of helping. Well, I am hosting the Salesforce Saturday, Yay! But both the women in tech leaders can't be there, and that's fine. Like I just want to get together. We're going to meet at Union Station, have some coffee. They've allowed me their budget. And I want to get in that. Like, I miss being around other women and in this space and talking trailhead and all that and running that group. So I miss that. But Unlike
every Saturday
before where it was smaller. Well, I don't know. At least this one. We'll see how it goes. But it's so different than before when you feel like you were missed on meetings or you didn't know what was going on or you don't know who to ask. I have so many people that are 1G chat away. My entire team and I talk all day long. It's so different. And because of that, I get up, I have coffee, I get my kiddo ready, I work a little, I take her to school, I start working on my day. Most of my team's East Coast, so they're up and ready. So I'm kind of trying to hammer it out early in the morning. I'll work out in the middle of the day or, work through lunch and then bag out at like 4 to go to the gym. And it's just different. Like, I hope my husband loves it the same because I don't put on makeup or do my hair a lot.
Yeah, that's actually why I started hosting team trivia back in the day, because I worked from home and I was like, I'm talking to the dog and he doesn't answer. So I need humans and pants.
Yeah. I mean, I go to yoga, I go to the gym. I'm, trying to branch out a little bit more. And, friends and family are here. But yeah, I do need and want to be around people of the community. I went to some acupressure, which we can talk about in another episode. And even just being there 10 minutes, I was like, oh my God, hi, how are you? It's la 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 la. And I'm like, oh man, I definitely need to be out around more people. But the flexibility of it and the fact that the company is so aware and prepared for people working out, like my entire role, my team, they all work remote. And I just never feel like I don't have support or accessibility to anything. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I don't know if I ever have to go back to an office and put on like slacks and makeup every day. I'm like, what am I going to do? I mean, I do like being like,
an adult
office Barbie sometimes, but whatever.
For sure. Well, thanks for keeping us on track. I mean, we went a little longer than we might like, but yeah, like...
Did we really? I was like, we're going to keep this one short. Yeah, no, we blew it.
Let's do I don't care. I mean, when I remind myself of story over story, then it's gonna maybe keep on keeping on, But I'm super excited for our next guests.
Oh my gosh.
It's a little different for us, right? But I think it'll be great. Different.
It's going to be awesome. I can't believe I almost forgot to say it. I tweeted it out a little bit ago, but they are not in the Salesforce ecosystem, but they are in, the women and dating ecosystem and helping women in tech date. So I have no idea how it's going to go. So it could be amazing. It could be bananas. I love it all.
We'll see. Do it to it. In the meantime, stay witty.